Look at your dad, such a dork keeping bees.
As you can see, it is kind of slow because it takes a little while for the bees to start dicking people with poisons. So the boss DPS is kind of like, it's kind of slow until all of a sudden it's good. It's just like massive ramping, obviously.
Takes time for the bees to get there.
It does, exactly. And also the bees, the DPSs can be shafted a lot by the bees actually dying, so you have to kind of invest a bit into making the bees survive.
What do you call a bee that's returned from the dead?
Oh, what do you call it?
Bee.
Oh, a zombie. You bastard. I'll
Sorry,
get up to
behave.
I'm gonna get up to a boss. Okay, here we go. So yes, just load up the explosive traps, shit out the acid flask, press the decoy button, which also spits out 3 decoys, and I'll explain how that shits out more bees in a second. But as you see, we have, what is it, on the screen, just
Many
over 100.
bees.
Many bees. Many whelps. And yeah, giving the boss a nice bikaki. So, explanation.
What's making the bees? Like, what is the main
So,
make?
what is making most of the bees are coming from these 2 idols here, which have 27%.
Oh, they're idols.
Yeah, they're idols. So 27% chance to summon a bee with acid flask. And you notice the wording is particular, that it doesn't say, you know, like you have to use it directly or anything like that. So it means you can trigger acid flask, right? And so that's what we're doing with explosive trap. And you realize I'm basically missing a couple of points because I've been testing a couple of things, but the last 2 points are not really important. Anyway, the point is you trigger acid flask. It's very straightforward. Many builds now come out just shitting out acid flask. And the acid flask itself, we're actually not really optimizing for damage at all. Like, I've got leftover points and I put them in damage, but I'm like, I don't really know what to do with them. I already capped out the area. Obviously, area is massive because you want to make sure you hit the bees with the acid flask. Actually, I better explain the actual uniques first, right? So this is where the whole bee dream comes to life with this helmet here, which says, when you hit a bee with acid flask, it gains toxic coating. And it doesn't actually explain it there, does it? Let me hit it.
Oh, that's gonna sting.
Yeah, but nice one. So toxic coating, 50% chance to poison on hit, and 10% less damage taken. But the 10% less damage taken is obviously like a multiplier. The bees still take a fuck ton of damage, so they don't become immortal after a couple of seconds, as you'd suspect with that line. So either that's bugged or it's just like a shrinking multiplier anyway. It doesn't even, yeah, the bees still take a lot of damage. But the point is that poisons very, very quickly. You can imagine with explosive trap shooting out about 4 acid flasks per throw using sprinkler and automated bombardment. It basically means every explosive trap that explodes will release a flask. So that's 4 per throw, right? And that's 4 times 50 on the helmet that we're getting 50% poison chance for each of the bees. And then you can imagine with 27% chance to summon per flask. So we're getting on average like 2 bees per throw. Let me just go to the dummy.
What sport do bees like the most?
What sport?
Rugby.
Alright, so dummy. You can see the bee numberer on the top left very quickly going up. And this is just me holding down the explosive trap, right? Let's just see how high it goes before they start despawning. Each bee lasts 10 seconds, by the way, so when you hit the 10-second mark, you'll see that. So we kind of hover around 70, assuming they all survive. It's like kind of like the average.
Throwing attack speed to speed up the bees.
Well, yeah, obviously, the more explosive traps you throw out, the more bees you get. And now we're peaking around 90. Yeah, stacking that shit, obviously.
Yep.
And then when you hit the decoy button, you'll get a nice burst, and it separates them out nicely. So you see, it's 30 bees per decoy, and I've got 2 charges of decoy, so we can shoot out a couple more. And then we very quickly get over the 100 figure, and we can get pretty close to like 140-ish sort of figure. That's a lot of bees. And you can see with the DPS on the dummy that I have absolutely no clue as to what the actual DPS is. Alright, so if you can see a number, in the
There's
millions.
definitely some big numbers in there.
I can't
That,
see it
that was
though.
like an 80.
That was
No,
800.
yeah,
That was at 800, right?
yeah,
I'm
that was an
pretty
800.
sure it does around a million DPS.
Yeah,
But that's obviously like slow, low ramping. And if I had to guess at the poison stacks, I reckon you'd probably sitting around 4,000 ish, maybe a bit less when you've fully stacked out the bees. But yeah,
yeah.
that's
You
a
can
lot of
kill the bees.
poisons. That's a lot of stinging.
So you were having a big issue with the bees dying.
Yes.
Um,
So basically, how are we scaling bees? So bees in particular are very hard to scale. You'll notice, actually, I don't even know if it says. Here we go, summon bee. That it's an attunement scaling tag. So you get from attunement you get increased damage and health. So what I've actually done, and my gear is actually really trash, by the way. Like obviously I've got basically no health, and I'm sitting at around 280 corruption, and it's kind of starting to get annoying. So you can obviously min-max this build, but it's not exactly a good build. You know, it's more about having fun with your friends,
without the bees.
and by friends I mean millions of bees. And so yeah, so I've actually tried to get attunement, and I've got a big chunk of attunement on the slots that I can get it on, and it basically yeah. And the reason being is that with this relic here, you get 12% damage per point of attunement and 12 health. So the 12% damage plus the initial scaling from the bees, it ends up being, I think that 16% it's saying in there is including the relic. So actually, it's probably around 16%. So that means if I have 10 attunement, that's 160% damage, which is not bad, but it's kind of, there's no real multipliers that can apply, which makes it really hard to get decent damage. And another issue that I'm having to solve is mana, obviously. And so I've got -5 here, -4 here. Obviously, ideally, you get another -5. And this stuff here, I'm using specifically only for the -3 mana. Like, it's kind of trash. Like that, I don't care anything about shurikens or block. It's all kind of meaningless. But the -3 is just really nice. You could replace this slot, but yeah, the reason why I spec'd out of this node here on the explosive traps is just I really hate having to get mana back. And you know, Rogue has some options available to get mana back, but I just hate it. I just like holding the button down. I don't want to generate mana some other way. I've tried it and it's just not very nice. So especially with the decoy press every now and then, it actually costs quite a bit of mana. But thankfully, with the attunement scale, we actually do get a decent mana pool, but that doesn't equate to mana regen per second. But we have got a bit of mana regen around the place. Like this stuff's got a big chunk. Obviously, the minion poison penetration that I've added onto this legendary version of this stuff is like the only real multiplier we can kind of get for scaling bees as a rogue. There's not many options. I guess if you use a different weapon, there might be more options. The really only good mod for a staff is the poison penetration mod. The minion melee damage, I only added it on because it's like there was no really other good things to add on really. And the melee damage I think is kind of inconsequential. It's all about the poisons as far as I can tell. But I added that anyway, hoping that maybe that would help their leeching a bit, because this does give bees some leech. Minions leech 3% of physical damage as health, but I really don't notice the bees leeching their health back. They kind of just die slowly. So that's kind of a shame. And it's really unfortunate that this relic stops minions from critical striking, because what would be really amazing is this Falconer passive here, where you get health back on minion crit, which would be amazing, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the passive tree is essentially just defensive options, because there's very little. There's the occasional minion damage cluster every now and then, but that's kind of it. These two are the kind of it, and the rest of it's just defense. There's a little bit of utility, like this one's a bit of AoE for us, which is good for our toxic flask. And yeah, the rest of it's just like there's a bit of throwing attack speed here, which is good, obviously, for us. But the rest of it's kind of like just utility or defense. Just like dodge, rating, health, taking all the shit. And I've even like having to pick up some useless shit like dex, because there really isn't much. Like, yeah, essentially just health, defense. I've still got spec into these, but I don't even really use this. But I kind of can use it with, if I use the shurikens, that will give me mana back. But Yeah, that's only if I spec back into this node here.
Do you think this build could work potentially on another class? And would it be something worth looking at?
Maybe, but I just really wanted to build around the Hive Mind helmet,
Yeah.
and I wanted to abuse the hell out of the fact that this patch here introduced explosive trap, which gives a huge way of generating massive amounts of acid flasks. The acid flask tree itself actually does have ways to spit out more than one, but it fans it out with this node here. It fans it out, and it doesn't really overlap very well on the bees, whereas the explosive traps, like, they will shit out all the acid flasks on the death dot of bees, which is exactly what you want.
Yep.
And then here's actually a really strange one, which if you look at my skills and wondering why the hell am I spec'd into Ballista, there is a really strange interaction with this passive here, which is the only reason I've gone into Ballista, by the way. Like, all these other points are useless because I'm not even summoning them, right? This passive here seems to be kind of bugged, where when you have the helmet equipped, this helmet equipped, instead of this applying to your ballistas when you hit them, it no longer applies to your ballistas and instead applies to the bees. So I'll kind of prove it here if I can.
Sorry, just let me read that skill.
Yeah, sorry, I'll let you read it. So it says when you hit a ballista, it will get poison chance and poison damage, and that's 100% more poison damage. So when I was saying before about not many multipliers, this is our only multiplier, right? And we go from like 500,000 DPS to 1 million DPS from this passive right here. And so you can imagine if they fix this bug, we have half our damage, which is, it's still kind of okay build, but it's already borderline shit. Like, yeah, it's kind of sad because, like, we have like 4,000 poison stacks, and yet because there's no real multipliers attached to it, aside from this bug, that we do bugger all damage, which is lame. Like, I think there is like scaling issues with some niche avenues of builds, which is kind of a shame. But that might be something they look to fixing in the future.
Believe so.
Yeah, so this is a source of 100% more damage. And the only reason why I found this out is because I was looking up the helmet, and I noticed that someone did a bug support around this one. So shout out to the person who found this bug. But it only equates to like 100% more damage, which is double damage, which is like not a lot, but like some bugs in this game equate to like factors of 10 times more damage. So
yeah.
We can try test it, but it's really hard to. Obviously, it's really hard to test because, like, you kind of got to scout the 1 million DPS number when it hits, right? So can you see it? I think I saw a 1 mil, right? Did you see a 1 mil?
Yep.
All right,
there's a 1-3 there.
Let's unspec it. Right. So now we're taking it off. Let's try it again. Hopefully I proved my point and they haven't actually bug feasted since I looked at it.
The numbers are way less.
Can you actually read those?
Yeah, there's a 300k.
Yeah, there's like a 500k, 600k.
Yeah. Whereas you're more regularly hitting big numbers before.
Yeah, okay. So it's pretty clearly bugged, and the good thing about it, I don't actually have to level it any more than these nodes here.
So what blessings are you running? Is there anything special going on there, or is it just defense?
The blessings. So actually, I just kind of got defense and whatever, and some. This one here is actually a good opportunity to get minion resistance, but because my gear's crap, I've had to. This is like the only real good source. This blessing here is the only real source of if you get a different one. This is the only one where you can get like minion defense. And minion resistances would probably go a long way. I've noticed at 280-ish corruption, the minions die a lot quicker. And when the minions die, so does my DPS. Like, it falls off a cliff. So
yeah,
it really is a shame that...
Yep, you're just falling behind.
Yeah, I'm falling behind, yeah. But it's not too bad. Like, with this, I think when I get some more legendaries, you get a bit more attunement around the place. And then obviously I get health and damage at the same time with attunement. So I can get attunement on this relic. I don't think I can actually get it on the chest or helmet because I think they're class specific ones, but I can get a big chunk there. I'm still missing it on my ring, and yeah, I don't think I can get on the yeah. But anyway, there's some other sources of the minion defense, and obviously I think dropping this stuff would be the way to go. Also, what I forgot to mention was there really isn't a need to go poison. You 100% if you wanted to can go ignite bees, and in fact I think that is slightly more damage because the helmet itself actually says if you convert acid flask to fire, it grants chance to ignite instead, right? So all our damage is coming from the ailments from the bees, so there is no real other poison scaling I'm taking advantage of except for, but this the ballista one also is converted, right? So theoretically this 100% more poison would also apply to ignite when converted. So you can just go ignite, which I think is slightly more damage. I just couldn't be bothered getting another staff. Well, I had this one with poison pen, so I just used poison damage, and I tested it out and it was similar damage anyway. But yeah, and then the rest of the shit's just like defense, like seriously lacking in defense. But if you've ever seen builds using explosive trap, you'll note that this passive here for dust shroud is extremely busted. This is basically, this one passive is hard carrying my defense really, because you'll see that when I throw out the explosive traps, the dust shrouds very quickly rack up, and I go to like 100 and some, around 100, right? And then if you click the defense, like the dodge chance is very clearly tied to the dust shrouds. And I go back to like, you know, bugger all dodge when it's gone. Yeah, like I'll almost get close to the dodge cap with that. It's just really nice. So that basically because of this, which gives dodge rating as a flat number, you really want to focus on passives that give percent dodge, which is like this one here, which is quite nice. So you can scale all that extra flat dodge that you're getting, but there's not a huge amount of sources of that. But yeah, it's all straightforward. Like you'd work the shit out. It's just defense. But yeah, that's kind of the build. It's fun, but the ramping damage is kind of bad. It's just really nice, you know, fisting things with bees and watching the swarms go. It's kind of cool. I like big bee number. But yeah, thanks for watching. Don't play the build. No, you can if you want, but yeah, it's not that great. Bees.